I need you to listen to me very carefully. What I am about to tell you is not a ghost story. It is not a campfire tale. It is not something I read online or heard from a friend. This happened to me, to my friends, to four real people who drove into the Tillamook State Forest in Oregon on a Friday night in September 2021, and only three of us drove back out. We never found Ryan, and what we heard in those woods on that third night, I will hear it for the rest of my life. Every single time the lights go out. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 29 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon. I work a normal job, I pay my bills, I live a completely normal life. Or at least I used to. The trip was Ryan's idea. Ryan Calloway, my best friend since the 7th grade. He was the kind of person who made everything feel like an adventure. Tall, loud, always laughing. The kind of guy who could walk into any room and immediately make everyone feel comfortable. The four of us have been planning this trip for months. Me, Ryan, our friend Jake Merritt, and Jake's girlfriend Sarah Chun. For friends, 3 tents, enough food for 5 days, and absolutely no cell service for 30 miles in any direction. That last part was Ryan's favorite detail. He said it every single time someone brought up the trip. 30 miles, he would say, grinning. 30 miles of nothing but trees and stars. We left Portland on a Friday evening. The drive took about 2 hours. By the time we pulled off the main road and onto the forest trail, the sun had already gone completely down. I remember looking out the passenger window into the darkness between the trees and feeling something I had never quite felt before on a camping trip. Not excitement, not anticipation, unease. I pushed it down, told myself I was being ridiculous. We had camped dozens of times before. These were just trees, just darkness, just Oregon forest in September. I was wrong about all of it. We set up camp in a clearing about 1.5 miles from the trailhead. 3 tents in a triangle formation, fire pit in the center. Ryan had the whole thing set up in under 20 minutes. He always did. The first night was perfect. Fire burning, food cooking, Ryan telling terrible jokes that somehow made everyone laugh anyway. Sarah had brought a Bluetooth speaker, and we sat around that fire until almost midnight. I went to bed feeling foolish about that unease I had felt on the drive-in. I woke up at 3:14 a.m., not gradually, not from a dream. My eyes simply opened, and I was completely, instantly awake, the way you get when something has pulled you out of sleep. The forest was silent. I mean completely silent. No wind, no insects, no owls, no distant sounds of any kind. Just an absolute, pressing, total silence that felt less like the absence of sound and more like something holding its breath. I lay in my sleeping bag, completely still, listening. And then I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, heavy footsteps, moving around the outside of our camp. Not fast, not panicked. The careful, patient footsteps of something that was not in any hurry. I told myself it was a deer, maybe an elk. Oregon forests are full of large animals. This was a completely rational explanation. And then the footsteps stopped, directly outside my tent. I stopped breathing. For almost 40 seconds, I lay in that tent, not breathing, not moving, not making a single sound, and whatever was standing outside did the exact same thing. And then, very slowly, it moved away. I did not sleep again that night. I didn't tell the others the next morning. Ryan would have laughed. Jake would have suggested we leave. Sarah would have agreed with Jake. And some part of me still believed it was an animal. The second day was normal. We hiked, we cooked, we talked. Ryan found a creek about 1/2 mile north of camp, and we spent 2 hours sitting on the rocks, watching the water. It was a perfect day, warm, clear, beautiful. But I kept looking at the trees. Every time we moved, every time the trail curved and the forest closed in around us, I had the feeling that something was moving parallel to us, just inside the tree line, keeping pace, watching. I never saw anything, not once, just that feeling, that cold, persistent feeling at the back of my neck that we were not alone. That second night, around 2 a.m., Jake woke me up. He was crouched at the entrance to my tent, his voice barely a whisper. "Marcus," he said, "did you hear that last night? Something walking around camp." I looked at him for a long moment. "Yes," I said. He didn't say anything else. He just nodded once and went back to his tent. Neither of us told Ryan. The third night, everything changed. We had gone to bed early, Ryan around 10. Sarah shortly after. Jake and I sat by the dying fire for another hour, not really talking, just watching the embers, both of us knowing, without saying it, that we were going to leave in the morning. I went to my tent at 11. I was asleep by 11:15. At 1:47 a.m., Sarah screamed. Not a short scream, not a surprise scream. A long, sustained, absolutely terrified scream that tore through that silent forest like a knife. I was out of my tent in seconds. Jake was already outside. Ryan's tent was already open. Sarah was standing at the edge of the tree line, 30 feet from camp. She was completely frozen, both arms at her sides, staring into the trees, still screaming. Jake reached her first. He grabbed her shoulders and turned her around. She stopped screaming immediately and just stared at him with an expression I had never seen on another person's face before. Pure, absolute, total terror. "There is someone standing there," she whispered, "right there at the tree line, standing completely still, just watching our tents." I woke up and I could see the outline through my tent, just standing there, watching. We turned on every flashlight we had. We swept the tree line in every direction. Nothing. No footprints. No broken branches. No sign that anything had been standing there at all. Ryan said it was a dream. Sarah said it was not a dream. They argued in whispers while Jake and I stood back to back, shining our flashlights into the darkness. And then Ryan said he was going to check the perimeter, just walk around the camp once, to prove there was nothing there. We told him not to go. Both of us told him. Jake grabbed his arm. Ryan laughed, pulled free, said we were being ridiculous, and walked into the trees. We heard his footsteps for about 30 seconds. Steady, confident, Ryan footsteps, moving around the right side of camp. And then they stopped. We called his name. Nothing. We called again. Nothing. Jake took 3 steps toward the tree line, and I grabbed him, pulled him back, because somewhere in the darkness just beyond where Ryan had walked, something was making a sound. Not footsteps, not a voice, not any sound I can accurately describe. The closest I can come is this. Imagine the sound a large animal makes when it is breathing very slowly, very deeply, directly into your ear, but amplified, but coming from everywhere at once, from every direction simultaneously, from inside the trees and above the trees, and somehow from beneath the ground itself. It lasted for exactly 11 seconds. I counted. I don't know why I counted, but I did. And then it stopped, and the forest went silent again. We screamed Ryan's name until our voices broke. We swept every flashlight we had into every corner of that forest. We found nothing. No Ryan. No footprints. No broken branches. No sign that he had ever walked into those trees at all. We ran. I'm not ashamed to say that. Jake grabbed Sarah, and I grabbed the car keys from Ryan's tent, and the 3 of us ran down that 1.5 miles of trail in complete darkness, with nothing but 2 flashlights and absolute terror pushing us forward. We drove until we had cell service. We called 911 from a gas station parking lot, 40 minutes from the forest. Search and rescue spent 11 days in that forest. They found Ryan's flashlight about 200 meters from where he had walked into the trees. The flashlight was still on, still working perfectly. They never found Ryan. That was 3 years ago. The investigation is still technically open. Missing persons cases don't close until there is a resolution. There has been no resolution. Jake and Sarah moved to Seattle 6 months after it happened. I don't blame them. I almost moved too. I still live in Portland. I still work my normal job. I still pay my bills. But I don't go camping anymore. I don't drive past forests at night if I can avoid it. And I sleep with the light on. Every single night, people ask me what I think happened to Ryan, what I think was in those woods, what made that sound. I don't answer that question, not because I don't have a theory, but because saying it out loud feels like an invitation. What I will say is this: whatever was in those trees was not afraid of us. It was not surprised by us. It was not passing through. It was waiting, it was patient, and it knew exactly what it was doing. The last thing Ryan ever said to us, while he was still laughing, still completely convinced that nothing in that forest could hurt him, was, "I'll be right back." He wasn't. If you're planning a camping trip this weekend, I want you to think about one thing before you go. When the forest goes completely silent, and it will go silent, ask yourself why. Because silence in nature does not mean nothing is there. It means everything is hiding from the same thing you should be hiding from. I'm your host. This has been Hollow Echoes Horror. New story every week. Subscribe so you never miss one. And whatever you do, stay on the trail.